My parents said, "We've booked the entire week of July 4th at your new lake house. Whole family. 32 people. Boats, grills, fireworks, the works." They said it like they were reading the weather report, like it was already done, like my silence for the past 6 months had been permission. I was mid-procedure, ultrasonic scalar screaming against a 12-year-old's canine, when Mom's name lit up my phone on the counter. I hit speaker because I thought it was about Dad's cholesterol meds. Instead, I got sunshine and certainty in her voice, the same tone she used when she signed Cole up for travel hockey without asking if I wanted to play too. "Rowan Elizabeth, we are so excited. I found your address on the county website, you sneaky girl. And I've already reserved the pontoon from Tom's Marina and ordered matching family t-shirts that say Heart Lake Week 2025. The cousins are bringing jet skis, Uncle Rick's smoker, and Aunt Karen's karaoke machine. We'll need every bedroom plus the basement, but you said it sleeps 10, right?" The scaler slipped. I nicked the kid's gum. He yelped. Blood dotted the bib. My assistant's eyes went wide. I stared at the phone like it had grown teeth, because I had never told them about the house. Not one word. Not the closing in December when the temperature was -12 and I signed the papers with gloves on. Not the nights I drove up alone after 12-hour shifts, headlights cutting through snow so deep I had to shovel the driveway before I could even open my own door. Not the first time I sat on the dock in April, ice still cracking along the shore, and cried so hard the loons answered back. My name is Rowan Elizabeth Hart, 31, dental hygienist, the invisible middle child who financed her own invisibility. While Cole got the new Tahoe at 18 and Levi got the condo down payment at 23, I got lectures about living within my means and a pat on the head for being so responsible. I ate peanut butter sandwiches for dinner, so I could throw every extra dollar into an account labeled North Shore or bust. 10 years of turning down weddings in Mexico, concerts in Minneapolis, even the office Christmas party because the ticket was $75. 10 years of watching lakefront listings the way other women watch babies on Instagram. Last October I found her. A cedar A-frame on Caribou Lake, built in 1973 by a carpenter who loved his wife so much he carved their initials into the ridge beam. The widow, Mrs. Lindstrom, walked me through room by room, voice cracking as she pointed out the window seat where she read to her kids, the dock her husband rebuilt every spring by hand. When I told her I wanted to grow old in those walls, she pressed the keys into my palm and said, "It's been waiting for someone who understands quiet." I closed 2 weeks before Christmas with a cashier's check that left my savings account at exactly $43.17. I danced barefoot in the empty living room while snow fell outside like the house was celebrating with me. I told one human, Mara, my best friend since we were 8, and she defended me when the mean girls said my thrift store jeans were ugly. She helped me paint the kitchen Lake Dawn, hang string lights on the deck, and pick out the navy Adirondack chairs that face west so I can watch the sun drown itself every night. We swore a blood oath silence until I was ready. I was going to be ready next summer. I pictured it in high definition. Mom and Dad first, just the two of them, coffee on the dock at sunrise, Dad's eyes wet when he realizes his practical daughter built a life more beautiful than anything he ever gave the boys. Then maybe Cole and Levi, one at a time, so they could see what quiet determination looks like when it finally wins. Instead, I got an invite with a cartoon flamingo wearing a life jacket and the subject line, Hart Family Takeover, Rowan's Surprise Lake House. I left the clinic without charting the procedure, drove north doing 90 on Highway 61 with the windows down and tears flash freezing on my cheeks. I beat them by 2 full days. I arrived at twilight, the lake a sheet of hammered pewter, loons calling like they already knew war was coming. I carried in groceries for 1, wild rice, fresh walleye, a single bottle of champagne I'd been saving for the reveal, turned on every light until the house glowed like a lighthouse, then made the call that still feels like the moment I was born a second time. The locksmith from Duluth arrived at 10 a.m. the next morning. By noon, every exterior door had new quickset deadbolts, new handles, and a Schlage keypad that only accepted 0814. The day I made my final student loan payment and screamed in the bank parking lot. He tested the last lock, handed me the only keys in existence, and said, "Good for you, ma'am. Some doors need to stay closed until people learn how to knock." Then I waited. They came at 3:17 p.m. on Thursday like a Viking invasion with coolers instead of axes. Cole's blacked-out Silverado first, 24-foot wake surf boat gleaming on the trailer. Levi's white Suburban next, 4 kayaks strapped like missiles. Mom's pilot stuffed with Costco tables and a banner that read Heart Family Lake Week. Making memories. Dad's F-150 hauling the Polaris side-by-sides because the kids need something to do. Aunts, uncles, cousins twice removed. Toddlers with floaties already on. 32 people who had never once asked what I wanted for Christmas but were certain they knew what I wanted for July. I watched from the loft window as they poured out like ants discovering sugar. Mom was up the porch steps first, arms full of grocery bags and that unstoppable smile. She twisted the knob, rattled it, dug in her purse for a key that would never exist. I opened the door myself. The entire caravan went still. "Hi, Mom." My voice cut through the pine-scented air like a fillet knife. "Looking for something?" Mom's smile wobbled. "Rowan. Baby. Surprise. We're here." Dad lumbered up behind her, confused. "Lock sticking already? These old houses settle." "It's not settling, Dad. It's locked. On purpose." Cole bounded up the steps, grinning like he'd won the lottery. "Holy shit. Ro, this place is unreal. Wait till you see the boat." "There is no boat launch on my property," I said. "And there is no reunion this week." Levi laughed, that easy laugh that always got him out of trouble. "Come on, don't be weird. Mom said you were cool with it." I looked at my mother. Really looked. The woman who once told me, "A cabin is a money pit for a single girl," while writing Cole a check for his 3rd flipped house. "I was never asked," I said. The words fell between us like an axe. The next 12 minutes were chaos in slow motion. "Mom, we just thought you'd love having everyone." "Dad, family shares everything, Rowan." "Cole, don't be selfish, it's 1 week." "Levi, you've got like 8 bedrooms, bro." Aunt Karen started unloading the karaoke machine. I felt 31 years of being the afterthought, the responsible one, the daughter whose job was to need nothing so the boys could have everything, rise up my throat like fire. "No," I said. 1 syllable, sharp enough to cut bone. I stepped back inside my house, and closed the door. The deadbolt clicked like a gunshot. I turned the keypad lock. Then I turned off every outdoor light and stood in the dark living room while 32 people shouted my name into the sudden northern night. They tried everything. Pounding, pleading, threats. Mom left 17 voicemails that escalated from confusion to tears to fury. Dad texted links to Bible verses about honoring thy father and mother. Cole actually called the sheriff, who informed him that a property owner has the right to refuse entry, especially when the deed reads Rowan Elizabeth Hart in bold. Someone tried the back door. Someone else started setting up tents on the public access, but the mosquitoes descended like God's own plague and the children screamed. I sat on my dock with Loon, the rescue mutt I'd adopted the week before, part shepherd, part heartbreak, and a blanket and a beer, and watched the northern lights dance green and purple across the sky while my entire extended family learned what consequences taste like. They limped away Sunday morning, bitten raw, boats still trailered, coolers half full of melted ice and broken plans. The silence that followed was holy. I spent the summer the way I had dreamed since I was 19 and first saw Caribou Lake through a bus window on a dental mission trip. Naked at midnight in water so cold it stole my breath, reading paperbacks until the pages glowed with moonlight, grilling walleye I caught myself and eating it straight from the cast iron skillet with my fingers sticky from wild blueberries. I painted the kitchen cabinets the exact color of the lake at 5:47 a.m. and cried every single time I opened them because they were mine. I hung a hammock between 2 pines and fell asleep counting satellites. Mara came up for the 4th. We shot off fireworks I bought with cash, nothing illegal, just enough to paint the sky red and gold, and drank champagne from plastic flutes while Loon chased sparks across the sand. "You gonna let them back in?" she asked, ash from a sparkler drifting onto her bare feet. "When they learn how to knock," I said. "And mean it." The reckoning came the first weekend of September, when the maples were just starting to bleed red. I sent 1 email. "Mom, Dad, Cole, Levi, for people. Labor Day weekend. Call first. Bring nothing but apologies I can feel in my marrow. Or never see the inside of this house again. They called. They cried. They apologized until their voices gave out. They showed up Friday evening with 1 bottle of wine, for overnight bags, and faces stripped raw. I opened the door barefoot, hair still wet from the lake, wearing the flannel shirt I'd bought the day I closed, soft from 100 washings and 1,000 dreams. The tour was slow, sacred. I watched Mom touch the carved initials in the ridge beam and start to shake. Dad stood on the dock so long the mosquitoes found him, staring at the water like it might explain where he went wrong. Cole ran his hand over the kitchen island. I'd sanded myself until my shoulders screamed and whispered, "Jesus, row." Levi asked if he could carry in firewood and actually waited, for me to nod. Dinner was walleye I caught at dawn, wild rice I'd foraged with a local Ojibwe elder, blueberry crisp made with berries I picked until my fingers were purple. We ate on the screen porch while the lake turned from molten copper to black glass. Then I laid every bleeding piece of my heart on the table. "I measured my entire life in what I didn't take," I said, voice cracking like thin ice. "Every time you gave the boys the world, you taught me my job was to need nothing so there would be more for them. I needed nothing so well that when I finally built something sacred, your first instinct was to fill it with 32 people who never once asked if I was lonely." Mom was sobbing so hard she couldn't breathe. Dad's eyes were redder than the maple leaves. Cole stared at his plate like it held every easy thing he'd ever been handed. Levi, the baby who never had to grow up, had tears sliding into his beard. "I sat in my car the day I closed and cried because I finally had proof I was real," I whispered. "And your very first thought was to take that proof away and make it a timeshare." Silence so deep I heard the loons calling my name. Mom reached for my hand. I let her take it even though it burned like frostbite. "We were wrong," she choked out. "I see you now. I see all of it." Dad's voice broke clean in half. "I've never been prouder or more ashamed in my life, Rowan Elizabeth." Cole met my eyes, really met them. "For the first time since we were kids. I took the easy road and never saw you carrying the mountain." "I'm sorry." Levi's whisper barely cleared the table. "I didn't know quiet could cost that much." I exhaled a breath I'd been holding since I was 9 years old and realized Santa loved my brothers more. "Thank you," I said. "That's where we start." I wrote the new rules on a piece of birch bark with a Sharpie because paper felt too temporary. "You ask before you plan anything that involves my name. You celebrate the person who earned it, not the one you assumed would share. This house is mine until I decide differently. Maybe forever. My choice. When you tell the story of this family, you start with the daughter who built her own North Shore with frozen tears and overtime." They nodded, all 4 of them, and I believed them. When they left Monday morning, Mom hugged me so hard I felt her heartbeat sync with mine. "I'm proud of you," she whispered into my hair. "I should have said it the day you took your first step toward this lake." Dad kissed my forehead like he was sealing a promise. Cole handed me a 6-pack of Spotted Cow and said, "Next time I'll wait for the invite." Levi hung back, then crushed me in a hug that smelled like pine and regret. "You're the strongest person I know, Ro." After their taillights disappeared down the gravel road, I locked my lock, my code, kicked off my shoes, and walked barefoot across floors I refinished with my own blistered hands to the end of my dock. I sat with Loon's head in my lap and watched the stars ignite one by one until the Milky Way poured across the water like God had spilled diamonds just for me. For the first time in 31 years, the silence didn't echo with everything I wasn't. It sang with everything I am. And the lake, my lake, answered back, wave after gentle wave after gentle wave.